Hi cutie, it's Cunning Little Cutie. And this week we are going to be filming a reading vlog for quite possibly one of the most hyped series on Book Talk right now. Certainly it's all over my FYP lately, and that is The Inheritance Games. Now, obviously this book has been going around for a while, so you might be thinking, why now? Well, I knew that this was a mystery. Mysteries aren't really my go-to genre, so I wasn't really like super anxious to get to it. But then I found out from Miss Sunny Kim that it is also a love triangle, and I happen to be a love triangle girly. I know everybody's supposed to hate that trope, but I just can't help it. So when I found out that there was a love triangle in this book, I said, yes ma'am, we are reading this book this week. Okay, so as I am reading this book, I'm also going to be attempting a first for me as a reader, and that is that I'm going to try to annotate this book as I go. Now, I attempted to annotate my first book earlier this year, and it didn't go so well. I got very confused. I forgot which color tabs meant which things, and it just turned into this like absolute mess. So I'm gonna try like keeping it more organized and leaving myself a little key in the front where I've seen people do that. We're gonna see how that works for me. And I have a green highlighter because the cover's green. We're gonna stay on trend. So yeah, as I go, you will also be seeing how successful I am at trying to annotate for the first time. So here's what I ended up doing. I've got orange for clues because we've got to solve the mystery. Then the rest of the tabs are basically just different colors for my favorite characters. So we have light blue for Grayson, we have this kind of lilac purpley color for Jameson, yellow for Xander, and dark purple for Libby. Do you mean to tell me that this is going to be a double love triangle? Honestly, I didn't know there was such a thing. Oh my gosh. So obviously we have the main three, which is Avery, Jameson, and Grayson. Like that's, you know, as advertised. But I'm sensing that there's something going on with Avery's older sister, Libby, because she clearly has some feelings for Nash, the oldest Hawthorne brother, but it's also been made clear that Nash has a very long romantic history with Elisa, Avery's new lawyer. Ergo, 2 love triangles. Okay, we need to discuss something very important, and that is fan casting. Okay, this is a concept that for some reason never occurred to me until I got on Book Talk and Bookstagram, like within the last year or two. So when I was growing up, back in the olden days of reading, I would just try to like picture a person in my head, like create a face to go along with the description of a book character. But the reading community has made leaps and bounds beyond that, because now we are basically like casting our own mental movies in our head and picking actors or celebrities that would go with the characters, and then we like picture those characters in our head. And I'm having a ball with this, okay? So far, I have fan cast most of the main characters in this book, and there are a couple that are still kind of eluding me, but we'll get to that. The first one being Xander Hawthorne, the youngest brother, and currently my favorite character in the book, not in like I have a crush on him like a romantic way, but just like he's so cute. He's so funny. I love him so much. So Xander is without a doubt 100% Kit Young from Shadow and Bone. He is like nerdy, but in kind of like an adorkable way. He loves like baked goods and robots and just like, oh, he's so sweet. And every time he says something like kind of quippy or like a little one-liner, I think Kit Young. Next up we have Nash Hawthorne. Now this is the oldest Hawthorne brother. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how I feel about him because he has this whole like Southern Texas gentleman thing going on, but I don't know if it's genuine or not. Like I just can't tell. You really can't take anything at face value in this book. That's definitely something I'm learning. So I don't know. At first, I heard a lot of people say that they pictured the guy from the Hannah Montana movie as this guy, Lucas Till. So that's kind of who I had in my mind in the beginning. But then as I got into it, I was like, you know, this isn't really working for me for whatever reason. I love Lucas Till, don't get me wrong, but he just wasn't matching the character in my brain. And so you know who immediately came up after that? Scott Eastwood. Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's no denying that this guy is just 10 out of 10. Like, he's Scott Eastwood. Like, I mean, come on. So yes, I am now thinking, I have now officially cast Scott Eastwood as Nash Hawthorne. I think this works perfectly based on primarily his role in The Longest Ride, that Nicholas Sparks movie about the cowboy. He just like perfectly fits this character for me. Like I can hear the accent, I can hear the kind of gentlemanly, that like, you know, Southern drawl. I can see it. It works. Okay, we're gonna talk about Avery. There was just something about her character that screamed to me Antonia Gentry. Now, this is the girl from Jenny and Georgia, which is a Netflix show. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't particularly care for the show. It wasn't really my vibe. I only watched the first like episode or two, but this main actress really made a big impression on me, and I love her look and her hair, and she has the prettiest eyes, and oh my goodness, she's so cute. Next up we have Oren, who is Avery's like a main security detail. This one was easy because I had already seen a lot of other people who had fan cast this role, and I think it's perfect, and that is Idris Elba. Primarily because I will look for any excuse to bring up Idris Elba. I think that's like most of the really important characters for now, except for, of course, I did not forget Grayson and Jameson. Now, the reason I left them till the end is because I'm having a little bit of an issue, and that is a lot of people online I see have said that they picture Louis Partridge as Jameson. Now, this is not a problem whatsoever because I think Louis Partridge is amazing. I loved him in Enola Holmes, but I don't picture him as Jameson. I picture him as Grayson. I know that might be controversial, but that's just like, the book describes Grayson as having very like sharp, angular features that we read earlier could like cut rocks or something like that. I don't know who uses an analogy like that, but it could cut rocks, his cheekbones. And I don't know anybody else who has cheekbones like that except Louis Partridge, okay? So what I'm thinking in my mind is basically blonde Louis Partridge as Grayson. I think this could work. But then that leaves me with the problem of who to cast as Jameson. So currently, in my head, I haven't quite figured this out, but for right now, basically when there's a scene with Grayson, I picture him as Louis Partridge with blonde hair. And then when there's a scene with Jameson, I picture him as Louis Partridge with brown hair. I know, not a sophisticated fan cast, if you will, but it's what we're working with right now. So that's just how it is for now. Until I figure out a better Jameson, this is what we're working with. And I mean, they're brothers, so it makes sense that they would look alike. But in any case, I'm having so much fun. Okay, so as you can see, we actually have started getting a few tabs. I'm very excited. We're ending it around page 90 today, with Avery starting her first day at school. Private school, new heiress in town. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Where's my book? I got it. Okay, it's 2 days later. I've read exactly 1 chapter since we spoke last. And in that chapter, Avery started her first day at school. She's greeted by this seemingly nice, very innocent girl, which, you know right there when somebody immediately comes up to you on the first day of school, like, you know there's ulterior motives involved. But she comes up to her, she's showing her around school. She's like, okay, this is cool, like, getting the lay of the land. Then Xander comes up, and it turns out Thea's actually a Hawthorne, and she's basically just trying to cozy up to Avery to get dirt on her for some, like, lawsuit that Zara's filing. I don't know what the deal is with her, but yeah, so Thea's a total snake. It is literally 1 chapter later, okay, the end of chapter 24, and Thea has literally just dropped the biggest bombshell ever. It says, think what you want to about me, but the last girl at this school who got tangled up with the Hawthorne brothers, the last girl who spent hour after hour in that house, she died. I don't know what to think. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So now Avery is basically in a tailspin. Understandably, she basically can't get that thought out of her head. The way Jameson calls her Eris, so cute. Whoa. Okay, so we are finding out that this mysterious girl who used to spend time with the Hawthorne brothers and is now no longer there, her name is Emily, and Grayson and Jameson both had feelings for her. Oh my gosh, I was not expecting this. Okay, for my Percy Jackson girlies out there, Drake, Libby's ex-boyfriend, is giving strong Gabe vibes, okay? And my Percy Jackson girlies out there will know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's where we're getting some clues as to the mystery of why Avery was chosen. Okay, so apparently 20 years ago, Tobias, so a lot of stuff went down 20 years ago. He changed his middle name. He added Tattersall to his name for unknown reasons. But then Avery starts thinking, like, what happened that prompted this, right? And so apparently this is the summer that he and his wife lost their son, Toby. And they were basically like off on vacation with some friends, and he died in a fire. Only Zara and Sky are like contentious about this, right? Because Sky has said that he disappeared, right? Whereas Zara said that he died. And so Avery's asking about this, and Elisa says that Toby's remains were never definitively found. And so something about that summer prompted Tobias Hawthorne to cut his entire family out of his will and change his middle name to Tattersall, which, like, if you're gonna change your name, you could pick a better one, okay? It's giving strong, like, Princess Banana, or whatever it is that Phoebe changes her name to in Friends.
Look at those tabs.
Okay, so Jameson and Avery just went to ask Sky about what the significance of their middle names were, and it turns out she didn't even freaking pick their names. Tobias did. Of course, like everything in this book, Tobias Hawthorne has literally orchestrated everything. So, yeah. But I don't know what's happening right now. Was this game, whatever this game is, has this literally been going on like since they were born? Like my mind is just like, the gears are spinning. I don't know what's happening, but like in a good way where I'm trying to figure it out. And there's just like something that's like just beyond my grasp that I can't figure out. With that information, Avery and Jameson are going for a ride, right? They need to blow off some steam, which is understandable, like taking a drive, kind of, you know, help you clear your head, whatnot. But they're not just taking a drive. They're going to a racetrack in an Aston Martin. That is the James Bond car, okay? Literally, that is the car that James Bond drives. Oh my gosh, Jameson is just the coolest. Okay, so, Avery goes over to the Hawthorne charity to kind of learn the ropes of how the charity is run. And this is really the first time that we get to see Grayson in more of a human light. Like, so far, he's been very cold, very reserved. But when she walks in the building, she sees all these beautiful black and white photographs taken of like places all over the world. And we find out that Grayson has taken these photographs. So apparently he's like a photographer in his free time, and we literally get to see the world through his eyes for the very first time. And I just thought that was like a really, really well written scene. Then of course Nash comes in and ruins it, not on purpose, but still he ruins it. And apparently something is going wrong with Avery's sister Libby, so I'm really nervous to see what's happening with her. Oh my goodness, I'm so pale. Hold on. Okay. I feel so bad for Libby. Her ex is just causing so many problems and it's driving me crazy. So basically, Avery comes home to like a full-blown paparazzi like horde at her house because Drake is once again stirring up trouble. And she gives an impromptu press conference in her driveway, basically saying like, I know why Tobias Hawthorne left me the money, but like doesn't say why because obviously she doesn't know. She's basically just trying to draw as much attention away from the whole Drake scandal that he's trying to cause. She's trying to draw their attention away, and so she just says the first thing she can think of that would be like, that would catch their attention, which I mean, it works. But was it a good idea? No. Okay, so here's the situation. Okay, so we, Avery and Grayson have decided, no, Avery and Jameson, their names are so similar, I keep getting them mixed up in my head. Okay, Avery and Jameson, who I am now picturing as Gavin Castellano. I feel like everybody has been obsessing over The Summer I Turned Pretty this year, so it makes sense. And their characters just kind of, I don't know, act similarly, like they're kind of the jokester. They keep everything interesting, we'll leave it at that. So yes, Avery and Jameson are off to figure out, okay, so basically Avery and Jameson have figured out that each of the 4 middle names corresponds to a certain place on the estate that was like named after them. So of course they have to go and explore those different places, and they're starting with a bridge named after Jameson's middle name. And basically we have Avery, they're like trying to find some sort of clue on this bridge. They can't find it, and so Jameson's like dangling Avery off the bridge to try and like see what's underneath. And finally they figure out this like one particular floorboard that they get to like come up, and that's where I stopped. So I'm gonna film my reaction. So what do they find? Da, 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 da. Okay, so they find a symbol, and the symbol is, so Jameson says it's infinity. And then Avery says, I tilted my head to the side and took a more pragmatic view, or 8. And I'm inclined to like believe Avery. I mean, unless this is like a Summer I Turned Pretty situation and infinity like has a really important meaning to the Hawthorne family, I'm gonna say 8. Because then each of the different places could correspond to a different number, and that could be the clue. Okay, so now Thea has come to visit the estate for reasons that are unknown to us. All we really know is that she's just trying to be as annoying as possible. So we're at dinner, and she's just like looking for reasons to bring up Emily. And it is driving Jameson and Grayson crazy. It is just like really stirring up trouble. And she's saying that, like, you know, it was their fault. Everything that, you know, their family does is bad and blah, blah, blah. But then after, we have this scene between Avery and Grayson. And it turns out Grayson followed them to the bridge and they didn't realize it. So he knows about the number 8 that was carved into the bridge too. But he also kind of watched them having like a moment. And then Avery says, "What do you want, Grayson?" And he says, "If you were smart, you'd stay away from Jameson, from the game, from me." "Thea's right," he said sharply, "turning away from me, walking away from me. This family, we destroy everything we touch." And if that is not the most emo Edward Cullen thing I have ever heard in my life, oh my gosh.
I have officially finished book 1 of the Inheritance Games series, and I have a lot to say. I actually took like notes, but then I was like, you know what? I think what you really want to know is whether I'm Team Jameson or Team Grayson, because let's be honest, that's why we all read these books. And I have to say, right now, this could change. I am Team Grayson. I have some arguments, okay? Mainly, what I love so much about his character is how loyal he is to his family and how like strong a sense of responsibility he has when it comes to them. And I love the fact that in the beginning of the book, Grayson was like, you know, I'm always gonna choose them, like it's always gonna come down to my family. But then in the end, when it actually came down to it, he put Avery over his family. And I love that because that was the greatest demonstration of how he feels for Avery, like more so than any words he could have said. And not only that, but even though he loves her, he won't, like, he's refused to like acknowledge it because of what happened with Emily and how detrimental Emily was to Grayson and Jameson's relationship. And he like promised himself that he would never break that like brother bond again. So he loves her, but he won't be with her because he knows Jameson loves her too. The actual mystery of like who was going after Avery, that was okay. Like there were only so many people it really could have been, and it wasn't anything like super out of pocket or like, wow, that was so like shocking and amazing. But what was amazing was plot twist number 2 at the end of the book, like the very end, like the last chapter, the epilogue or whatever, when you found out that Toby, that like the guy she was playing chess with in the park was actually Toby. That one threw me for a loop. Like, I could not have seen that coming in a million years. But it was also one of those plot twists that like if you look back, like it wasn't so out of pocket that it felt like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Like, she sprinkled just enough of it into the story prior to that to kind of like lead up to it and it feel more natural, but wow, I never saw that coming. So yes, I had a lot of fun with this book. I'm definitely going to be reading the next two. Actually, by the time this video goes up and I actually get all of this footage edited, vlogs always take me the longest to edit, but once I get this video up, I may have already read the other two. We'll see. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if there's any way I can be encouraging you or praying for you this week. I know that the hurricane has hit a lot of people really hard, so seriously, let me know if there's any way I can be praying for you. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Bye!